Okay, I wanted to work on a video response to actually comments that have been on my channel, especially on a couple of the more popular videos concerning survival food storage. And as you can see, I'm kind of a big guy, right? I don't miss very many meals, and it's an interesting fact that a lot of Marines gain weight when they get out of the Marine Corps. Okay, we can go into a lot of the psychology on that. It has a lot to do with being skinny and hungry for a long time, and when you get out to where you can put your own means into when and where and how much you get to eat, you're going to get big. Okay, but I wanted to discuss a little bit to do with a lot of the comments that have been in one of my videos on survival food storage and a lot of mistakes that people make, and I've seen this a lot on the National Geographic Prepper shows, is a lot of people are finding it very convenient to stock up on conventional groceries. And if you look in the comments on the video, which I'll link in the description here so you can know what I'm referring to, there's a lot of people making a lot of comments saying, hey, I ate this food or I talked to this food manufacturer or that food manufacturer, and he said that these items are okay when they're past date. And that gets into some mentality that I've run into with a lot of lower income people that are really closer to being in a need-based survival situation than I would say most of the people that are actually consider themselves preppers. And one of the things that comes up with those people a lot, with the people who are most likely to actually need survival preps in the near future because of their location in a socioeconomic structure, is that they're using a lot of foods from food banks. They're using a lot of food which was past date when they got it, and they're thinking, okay, well, if I accumulate a whole lot of this food bank food, then there's my supply, there's my safety net. And while it may be emotionally satisfying to have that as what you think is a safety net, or to say, yes, I've prepped, I got a bunch of groceries, you have to look at the fact that, one, regular commercial packaging is not intended to be critter proof. Okay, bugs, cockroaches, weather changes, any kind of rodents, any kind of birds, any kind of animals that might be scavenging around where you store your food are going to have much easier access to anything that's in cardboard or lightweight plastic packaging, as opposed to the types of packaging that the experienced and professional food storage people tend to gravitate toward. And when I talk about the experienced and professional food storage people, I'm not going to pull punches on it. It's the Mormons, okay? They've been the people calling the shots and running the businesses related to long-term survival food storage since the 1950s. They're the people who had a lot to do with the original Minuteman projects, the prepping for possible communist takeover of the United States. They were the people behind the original food storage companies, which in a lot of respect were the outgrowth of the Mormon canneries. They are the experts at this. There's also a reason why a lot of the Wise Foods, Augustin Farms, a lot of those companies are centered out of Utah. That's Mormon Central, and they're experts at what they do. They're experts at what they know. And so we look at what kind of products they're bringing to market from the expert standpoint as probably the most heavily researched and the most suitable for what they do. We also have to look at the fact that Mormons in the western United States and much of the eastern states control a really big chunk of food processing plants and farm product processing plants in the United States, and they control the packaging methods that they use in their stuff. And for stuff that's meant to be taken to market, sold, and used within a specific time period, the packaging is also designed for that specific time period. It's not designed to go years and years past that with any level of guarantee, which gets us to the question that a lot of people seem to answer on their own, which is, is it okay, is it acceptable to eat stuff, 3, 5, 8, 9, 10 years past its expiration date? And we have to look at the economy of the safety of gambling your health and the health of those who might depend on your food supply on whether or not that stuff is past date. Because the original packaging company, it may not be available, they may not be around. Everything that you prepared ahead of time has to be done with that 10-year plan in mind, whether or not it ever comes to pass. The other thing we have to look at is whether or not you're creating a situation of a false sense of peace in having prepared and saying, hey, I've got my 1-year food supply. We've got a long-term plan. We've got the garden seeds and things like that. Right now, mid to late January 2014, there's an online prepper conference going on. There's a lot of people talking about that kind of stuff. And they're talking about when people get into a prepper lifestyle, which, you know, it's a relatively new term. Okay, I've been a survivalist. I've been in the survivalist movement for a long time. The prepper lifestyle, a lot of people say there's a lot of failures in that. A lot of that has to do with matching soil types to seed stock, other things like that, you know, let's say food gardening. But when we look at the food preparation side of the house, I really prefer to make one series of preparations and say that's good for several years. I live in a city. I work in a city. I don't necessarily want to be in a live in the woods and eat bark lifestyle for the rest of my life. I want to be able to participate in the economy, a normal social life, all those types of things, knowing that, hey, I've made a very real, serious step towards survival if anything happens. If shit hits the fan, it's not just a matter of having emotional peace and serenity and saying, well, I give up and let go and let God, and whatever happens, happens. No, I plan on making very real preparations for that. And if anybody wants to accept advice from my channel, please listen to what I have to say about this. I've studied it. I take advice of other people who have studied it. And you have to look at very specific types of foods to use as your preps. So when we look at that, no. All right, so when we look at that stuff, we have to look at, okay, who are the experts? And I really study the people who publish this stuff professionally, because they're putting a reputation on the line. When I see a comment from somebody who, you know, has an opinion, you know what, I'm not going to take it as seriously. And I'm also going to look at your channel, and I'm going to look at, you know, other things. And if you don't have any videos, I'm going to have to follow the James Yeager train of thought. You know, I don't want to offend anybody as much as maybe he offends some people, but you know, that's kind of anonymous talk from a nobody. I'm not going to take it as seriously. I don't think my readers or watchers should take that kind of stuff as seriously either. And I will say this: I have done those other things in the past. I have stored conventional canned food. I have videos about why I changed everything from that. I have stored a lot of MREs. I don't detail too much of that, but a lot of that has to do with the fact that MREs are designed to only go about 5 years. When they start getting around 7 or 8 years old, and it gets more difficult to determine the dates on those MREs if you don't have the original case, that presents a problem also. The other thing is MREs these days have kind of gone up in price, and they're not necessarily the most cost-effective way to go, but I do see that they have a very good legitimate place in bug out rations. If you, let's say your primary place where you want to be when shit hits a fan is maybe several days travel away, MREs are good for traveling food, really good for that. If you're embarking on any kind of missions, then they're really good for that too. So I do want to discuss that on food further, but I'm going to post this video as an update to some of the other videos I've done. I'm going to link it because I want a true video response to my comments, which for whatever reason people are trying to drown me out with bullshit. Yeah, I appreciate the dialogue, but I'm not changing my position on it.